So today's going to be a bit different. I'm being interviewed, not by an individual, but by my own AI assistant. She's called Luna, and she's got to know me pretty well. There's no scripts, no rehearsals, just honest, authentic answers to questions about leadership, life, and lessons I've learned the hard way. These are looking at some of my biggest failures, what really matters. And at this stage in my life, it gets about as real as you can imagine. So let's dive in. Okay, Luna, do you want to just introduce yourself and then kick off with your first question?
Sure, Darren. I'm Luna, your AI assistant. Let's dive right in. What's something you reevaluated in life recently?
I think the big thing is reassessing the balance between high impact work and my own health and wellness, because success means nothing if it comes at the cost of health and being present, actually. And I've just recently read a LinkedIn article or post, I should say, from an individual that I respected in the cybersecurity industry. And she's been pretty unwell. She's been pushing herself really hard, and she's put health second place. And it just reminds me, I've always known that health is important, but she's now unwell and reevaluating her life. So for me, I think just realigning and making sure health is at the center is really important.
Absolutely. Prioritizing wellness ensures you can sustain your impact.
Yeah.
All right. All right. What have you changed your mind on recently?
I think the first thing is thinking that I had to be busy building wealth when what's really important is being present and enjoying the moment. So don't get me wrong, having your needs met, which, largely have done that now. So there's a certain level of wealth that's probably required to have all your needs met. But once many of your basic needs are met, I think it's really important to start enjoying the moment. So that's the one thing that I've changed my mind on recently.
That's a powerful shift, embracing the present.
Yeah.
Now, recently you discovered how meditation transforms decision-making under pressure. Can you share more about that?
Yeah, look, I've been meditating now for many years. It might even be close to 8 years, something like that. And it's all about being calm. That's the one thing. It's made me feel centered. But I've also noticed more recently that after I've just finished a meditation session and maybe I settle into some work that I need to do or some education that I need to deliver, it's really helped me with my clarity and certainly decision making. I've felt that I'm just better at making decisions when I'm clear. And I think that's where meditation's really helped.
That's fantastic. Meditation really does amplify clarity. Next question. What's one new life skill you've picked up in the past year?
I would say it's necessarily a new life skill, but it's a skill that I've been developing or paying attention to more, and that's storytelling. Storytelling is really powerful. It engages an audience. And I noticed the difference between just talking facts to an audience and telling a story. You can see how people are more engaged. And I'm trying to introduce that more and more into the way that I teach, the presentations that I give, or just generally in conversations with people. So I would say honing my storytelling skills.
Absolutely. Storytelling is a game changer for engagement. All right. What's been your biggest unlearning this past year?
Gosh, unlearning. I think letting go of perfectionism is probably going to be my biggest unlearning. Sometimes it's just better just to get started. And I think this YouTube channel is a really good example of this. You can easily get paralyzed by overthinking and trying to be perfect. That's definitely been my biggest unlearning in this past year.
That's a valuable insight. Progress over perfection, right? Now, if you could change one thing about yourself, what would it be?
I would say patience is probably the biggest thing, especially if I look at business, for example. The Cyber Leadership Institute is a really good example of this. We've been in business since 2018, and I think I initially thought that within a couple of years we'd be flying high, making millions. But the realistic way of looking at things is that certainly businesses take time to develop and grow, unless, of course, you have one of those fly-by-night situations, but there's not many like that. So yeah, I think patience really to appreciate that things take time to grow is one of those things that, I change about myself.
That's a great perspective. Growth does take time. All right, what triggers your self-doubt and how do you handle it?
Self-doubt is quite paralyzing, I think. And when you get into probably trying to juggle too much, that's when you can get into self-doubt because you really don't know which thing to focus on. I think just being very clear about what are your focus, look back at the goals that you set yourself and try to just to deliver on them. I do find that each day there are moments when I know there's something that excites me I want to do. And I think I should just do those in the moment when I feel like they need to be done because I've got the energy. So do that rather than what I've sometimes done is put them off to another day and say, I'll do that and try to schedule it. You don't have the same momentum when you schedule something to do. And sometimes you get to do the thing that you said you were going to do, and then you just don't feel like doing it. So you miss out. So I think curing that self-doubt, just acting on the things that need to be done in the day. Don't be wrong, you still need to schedule things, and you still need to do things that are important. So being disciplined is certainly important as well, but being focused, checking back on your goals is the things that helps weed out.
Absolutely. Taking action in those energized moments is key.
Yeah.
Next question. What treat do you want to be known for?
Gosh, I think I talk about this a lot, actually. The Cyber Leadership Institute, I talked about, the leadership roles that I've had. I want to be known for somebody who cares about the well-being of others. And probably a word that springs to mind a lot is resilience with probably a human touch. So I want to be known for my focus on personal resilience, team resilience. I think that's probably, but with a human touch is probably a good thing I want to be known for.
That's a powerful combination. Now, describe yourself in one word.
I would have said resilient, but probably if I look back over my career, it's been quite varied, actually. It's not followed the true path. And I feel like in many regards, I've been trailblazing many areas. One of the first early cybersecurity leaders probably you would regard as being an early CISO because of probably my age as well. So I think trailblazing, and even as a cybersecurity professional now, I've done so many different things. I've done marketing, I've done sales, I've been a CISO, a group CISO, I've done entrepreneurship. So I think I've trailblazed the cybersecurity profession by doing all these different things. So trailblazer probably is the word, would describe myself in one word.
Trailblazer fits perfectly. Now, what's your definition of success?
Creating some kind of lasting value without losing who you are as an individual. And I think creating lasting value can be something like a book. And we have wrote a book, The Cyber Leadership Imperatives. That was a co-authored book, which I've enjoyed being involved in. I will get a chance to write my own book at some point, and I'm thinking about what that will be. But that creating something of lasting value, we've done that to some degree in the Cyber Leadership Institute, where we've created valuable assets that scale. So something that scales beyond yourself. So that lasting value, I think, is something that I defines success for me. So something beyond just something that I teach in the moment, but something that's truly scalable because it meets the needs of more people is probably the one.
That's a powerful definition. All right, let's shift gears a bit. What's your biggest blooper to date?
Biggest blooper. I think forgetting part of my words in a keynote. I was obviously doing a keynote like I would normally do, but I was about halfway through my presentation and I literally just forgot where I was. But I laughed at myself, and rather than getting all concerned, the audience kind of encouraged me to carry on. I took a breath and went through the rest of the keynote, and it was delivered successfully. We got a nice round of applause at the end with a lot of kind of smiled faces. So I think that's probably my biggest blooper to date, is forgetting my words mid-sentence in a keynote.
That's a great recovery story. Now, what was your biggest setback and how did you overcome it?
Yeah, lots of setbacks, I think, and this is where you get the biggest learning from. But there's one thing that stands out for me. So I did get fired fairly early in my career. I was working as an IT help desk manager, responsible for a team of individuals. But when I did get fired, I remember during that conversation, that we did have roles available in the team that I was managing. And I knew I had the skills to be able to do that role in the team. So rather than just accepting the fact that I was going to get fired, I did speak to the person who was firing me, who was my manager, and said, look, I'm willing to swallow my pride. I really enjoy working at this company. There's a role in the team that I think I could do. It will be a demotion, and I don't even mind the pay cut or anything, but I'm just happy just to do that. And it took a lot of swallowing my pride. I had to work in the team. A new manager came in who was managing me, but I rebuilt myself from the inside. And that just allowed me then to consolidate, think about what I need to do next. And quite honestly, it was great just working with a team. It was a lot of fun. But then I just really began to focus on learning my leadership skills. And it wasn't before long before I got promoted and I was flying in my career again in that same company as well, which is great.
That's an incredible example of resilience. All right, what was your first job?
Bartender, that was easy. I was working for my parents and mum and dad. And it wasn't long after being a bartender that both my brother and I moved into nightclubs and managing bars for ourselves. But that was my first role.
Nice. Bartending must have taught you some early people skills. Now, can you share a life incident that changed your course forever?
Yeah, look, as well as the setbacks, there's been some pivotal moments where I've done something quite unique. And especially in cybersecurity. And one of the unique things that I did back in 2015 was get involved in building a cybersecurity startup, software as a service. And I was involved with some co-founders and I had some equity myself. And that business, although I'm not directly involved in it today, was a pivotal moment that kind of opened my eyes to entrepreneurship and the value of building something of lasting value. It's now a hugely successful security business. It's no longer just a startup worth millions of dollars and doing well over 7-8 figure numbers in revenue. Yeah, so that really set my path to think about cybersecurity entrepreneurship, which obviously went on to build the Cyber Leadership Institute and continue to look at other entrepreneurship areas. So that was a life-changing moment for me.
That's incredible. It's amazing how pivotal moments can redefine your path. Now, what's the most uncomfortable thing you've done recently?
I think this is admitting to myself. I was on a path recently thinking that I can just do things on my own. I've got the skills, I've got the experience, I can just do something on my own. But the realization is I've been managing teams for years. And even in the cyber leadership, we've got an operations team, quite a sizable operations team. You only really do well and accelerate and move forward quickly when you've got a team of people. So I think that's been the most uncomfortable thing I've had to realize is put aside my pride that I want to do it myself and recognize that you need others to be successful. Continuing to recognize that the uncomfortable truth for me is that you don't do things on your own. It's only with teams that you win.
That's a powerful realization. So when you moved out of your comfort zone, what misgivings did you encounter?
Look, moving out of my comfort zone was probably something that happened quite recently, actually. I left Standard Chartered Bank. It was a kind of almost like an agreed, negotiated way out, which was fantastic after nearly 6 years at the bank. But moving out of your comfort zone is something that we all need to do at some point. And the truth is, when it comes to the next stage of your growth, you need to move out of your comfort zone because growth only comes when you're out of your comfort zone. So that was a big thing for me.
Absolutely. Growth always happens outside the comfort zone. All right. Can you share an incident you viewed as a failure that became a valuable learning experience?
Yeah, I mean, there's been a few things like this, but plenty of I've been already talked about the failure of leading a team and losing my job. That was obviously a failure that became a gift because I learned such a lot through that experience of swallowing my pride to be more humble. So that's definitely one. But there's been a couple of times where even in cyber leadership, we've launched a couple of products and they haven't quite as been the success that we thought they were. So that was a painful pivot, but required because some of those failures meant that we spent a lot of money. So the gift there was to be a little bit more frugal with where we spent our money. So that became a gift.
Turning failures into lessons is a powerful skill. Now, if you could do one thing differently in life, what would it be?
The one thing I'd do differently, I'd definitely spend more time with my girls in the early years. Success, all the success that we can gain is not worth it if we're missing those kind of cherished milestones that you can't get back. So I don't have no regrets, but I definitely spend more time with my daughters and hug them more, do all the things that your dad would do with your twin girls. That's something I definitely do more of.
That's a beautiful reflection. All right, what's the most difficult work related decision you've made?
Sometimes we have to have difficult conversations with our teams, and sometimes that can be with people who are truly great people. Letting go of a great person in my team who wasn't necessarily aligned to the next phase of the strategy, that was a difficult thing and one of the hardest decisions I had to make, to let them go. They've now gone on to thrive in doing other things, but leadership can be like that. It can be tough decisions, hard conversations, but yeah, some of those are the hard decisions that need to be made, but for the right reasons.
Absolutely. Tough decisions are part of leadership. Now, what's one childhood memory you cherish to this day?
Family road trips. I always remember doing them with my parents. Loud music in the car, windows down, just the joy of traveling, all being together. I think they force you to be present when you're all in the car together. And even back then, there was no kind of headphones that you could put on, or you could zone out into your own world on a mobile device. So I think family road trips is something that I cherish. And even today, if I can get all my family on a road trip together and hopefully not on phones in the car, then I do value those moments.
That's a wonderful memory. All right, who is your role model and why?
A role model. So a bit of a pivot here. I think Nelson Mandela has to be one of those people up there. I think that he exhibited strength with grace, a real masterclass, I think, in dignity under extreme scrutiny, fire, and persecution. I even visited Nelson Mandela's cell in South Africa, his house where he lived, where he was brought up, and really understood his story in a lot of detail. But to do what he did after having so many critics and really having such an extreme, difficult time in jail, to do what he did afterwards to lead his country was magnificent. So that's a real role model that everybody should to look to, aspire to.
Absolutely. Mandela's legacy is truly inspiring. Now, as you think about your career, who stands out as a mentor and why?
Yeah, that's easy. There's a guy called Peter Harris who was he was a manager but also a mentor of mine. And working at IBM, he was one of those managers who just built such a lot of self-belief in me. I think he was if I remember rightly, he used to be a chemistry teacher as well. And I could only, this was at schools or even at university, but he had this way of instilling self-belief in you. And I'll never forget that he stood up for me when I made mistakes. And as a true leader, that was somebody who I felt the mentorship of his leadership has inspired me to be the leader that I am today.
That's a powerful tribute to Peter's mentorship. So, what's the one human quality you hold above all else?
I would say integrity and authenticity, but I'd have to combine the two of them. I think it's the foundation of pretty much everything because we all care about our own reputation, and reputation in today's world is going to be everything, especially with AI coming along. People that can be authentic and have full integrity is something that will set them apart from their peers, where people will use AI for pretty much everything, I think, in the future, which also relates to things like personal branding and things like that. But I would say integrity and authenticity together.
Absolutely. Integrity and authenticity are foundational. Now, who is one person you really appreciate, Reed, and why?
I'm going to say my wife. She's been the steady force behind every big leap I've made in life. She's been massively supportive about everything that I've wanted to do, probably at the expense of her own aspirations in life. Although I know she's enjoyed the journey with me. We've enjoyed lots of great times together. But I think probably professionally, she's not made the strides that she's wanted to make. I know she came out of the corporate career to support my corporate career, and she's been there when I've been building businesses. Hopefully I can give a bit more time to supporting her endeavors now at this stage.
It's a beautiful acknowledgement. All right, what's the kindest thing someone did for you recently?
Kindest thing. I think the kindest thing is often when somebody covers for you. I needed to step back from a particular time in my career, but somebody who was working for me stepped up and really took on a lot of that pressure when I needed it. It was only for a short period of time, but that really meant the world. They didn't even have to ask. They just stepped in.
That's beautiful. Now, what do you want to be remembered for?
I think helping others unlock their leadership potential and live bolder lives within cybersecurity, because ultimately what we're trying to instill in the people that we teach in the Cyber Leadership Institute, or people that I mentor individually, or even in consulting or presentations that I give, it's allowing other people to feel confident. The more confident they are in what they're doing, the better influence and impact they're going to have. So I think helping people unlock their leadership potential is probably the main thing.
That's a powerful legacy. All right, what's one life motto that you live by?
One life motto. I think always learning and evolving. That's really important. Always be the student, not think that you know everything. So that's probably the main thing is, always be the student learning.
That's a fantastic motto. Now, what makes your heart dance and your eyes light up?
Obviously, that's going to be my daughters, my twin daughters. They inspire me every day, and anything that they do well, or just do, anything that they do well and take a chance on, I think is something that definitely lights me up. And there's been so many examples of that recently where they've stepped into their power and really just done some fantastic things. So having the confidence to do the things that they've done. But also, I think there's been plenty of people that I've mentored over the years as well, where I've seen those people rise into very senior positions. But I'd say my daughters is probably the thing that lights me up and the most.
That's amazing. Seeing your daughters and mentees thrive must be incredibly rewarding. Now, what's your secret to unwinding?
Oh, this is relatively easy. I live by the ocean now, so early morning walks on the beach, overlooking the ocean and the sunrise. That's real sacred time to me.
That sounds perfect. When do you feel most comfortable in your workday?
I think it's mentoring others, teaching others. That definitely energizes me. It's when I feel like I'm stable and in the place where I feel I need to be. So I think that's probably where I'm most comfortable at the moment anyway.
That's fantastic. And when do you feel most uncomfortable in your work?
Dealing with any admin, that drains my focus. Anything to do with spreadsheets or anything to do with probably financial things that I need to analyze, or anything that's the typical things that administration that gets us all down. That's when I'm least comfortable. So it causes a little bit of overwhelm, and there's a lot of admin to be done, but it needs to be done right.
Absolutely. Admin tasks can be a drain. So how do you sidestep negativity when it's coming at you?
I wouldn't say sidestep, but you can certainly deal with it by keeping yourself grounded in your purpose and try not to fight back. I think on occasion it's been quite easy for me to react. So trying not to react, stay within my own power and be more aware of those situations. There are a couple of times actually in the last year or so where I've allowed some of that negativity to impact me, but meditation is a great tool for this.
That's a great approach. Staying grounded definitely helps. So what are your passion pursuits apart from your 9 to 5 work?
Obviously fitness, that's the big thing that I do every day. And I think this is what somebody should do every day. I just go to the gym every day. There's no negotiation. It's my identity. Meditation, again, super important, but walks on the beach, and ideally doing this with my wife is fantastic. Those walks on the beach are something that I live for.
That's a solid routine. So, what are you holding on to that you wish you could go?
Overanalyzing things. I think I still overanalyze a lot of things and not be focused enough. That's probably the thing, is looking at all the different options when really there isn't. Just go with your gut feel, I think, is probably something that I need to let go of all the overanalyzing and focus more on my gut feel.
That's a great intention. All right, what are you thankful for today?
Health and freedom.
Those are two invaluable things. So, what's your favorite limitation? Why?
Deadlines, I think, but they force clarity.
Absolutely. Deadlines do bring focus. When was the last time you were truly happy?
Just this morning, just spending time with my wife, just having breakfast overlooking a river. Those small things are just what make me happy.
That's lovely. Finally, what daily ritual brings you the most joy?
When I remember to be grateful, that is what brings me most joy, because it forces you to think about the things that are most important to you. Just remembering to be grateful and then recalling what those things are.
That's a beautiful practice. Thanks for sharing all these insights, Darren. Ready for the next question?
Yeah, how many questions we got left now? We've got just a few questions.
Covered most of them. Just a few left whenever you're ready.
Okay, go ahead. Next question.
All right. If you could have lunch with anyone who has ever lived, who would it be and why?
Oh, I think that's easy. It would just be my wife and twin daughters, because we don't often get all together, because we're not all together in the same country. Hopefully that's changing soon and we will all be in the same country for at least a while anyway. That's what matters most.
That's wonderful. Family time is priceless. All right. If you could change one thing in the world, what would it be?
Not everybody has access to the same digital services that us in most parts of the world have. So I think narrowing the digital divide so that everybody has access to the same kind of different technologies that we all take for granted. So narrow the digital divide would be one thing.
That's a powerful goal. If you could remove one awful thing people suffer from, what would it be?
Chronic disease in older age, I think. Age-related illnesses can be prevented in many ways. I think if it was one of the suffering that I could alleviate would be, how can people do things earlier in their life that means that they not just have a long lifespan, but a health span. In other words, they're healthier into their older age. And there's a lot of that can be mitigated. That's the one suffering that I'd like to see eliminated. And it's possible. And I think that's do things like eating healthy, certainly exercising with weights is important. Go to the gym, not just walking. Walking is important as well, but to those kind of things that grow muscle mass that you'll need later into your old age. Because there's some facts out there about people falling over in old age and within a few years they die early. So that's what impact not having a strong body can have.
That's a meaningful focus. If you had no boundaries, what job would you want to do?
But what I'm doing now, entrepreneurship, is the best job in the world.
That's fantastic. If you could master any skill instantly, what would it be?
Any skill instantly.
Yes. If you could master.
Okay, let me think. I think the ability to read and comprehend at speed would be something, because I do enjoy reading, but I read too slow and my comprehension of reading is too slow as well. So I think that would be the one skill.
I'm sorry, but you've hit the daily limit for advanced voice. You can switch to standard now to keep chatting.
Okay, so I hit the limit. Hopefully you all enjoyed that conversation with my AI assistant. You realize there's a daily limit, of course. I think she was only going to ask me a few more questions. So that's it. Thanks for everybody who's been listening so far. This is Darren, out.